Well, hello and welcome to another episode of Day Tripper Daz. This time I've come to Bristol, historic port and a place famous, synonymous even, with three names that I can think of. One is Edward Colston, who I'll talk about a little bit later on. Another is Banksy, the famous graffiti artist, you could say, but certainly he's more famous for graffiti than anybody else I can think of. But the other one that I think of when I think of Bristol is Isambard Kingdom Brunel. There's a bridge here in Bristol called the Clifton Suspension Bridge. Sadly, he didn't get to see it being completed, but that is world famous and that's something worth looking at. And the other one is this, the SS Great Britain. So rather than me waffle on about something I don't know anything about, I'm joined by Ian. I believe you do guided tours and things.
No, voluntary, engaging with visitors.
Excellent. So what can you tell me briefly about the history of the SS Great Britain?
It was built in that very dry dock where you can see between 1839 and 1843. It was the largest iron ship in the world, seagoing ship in the world at the time. Mainly went to New York then, which took 12 days. Or Australia, which took 60 days.
So back in those days, going to New York would have taken a lot longer before this ship was
oh yeah, yeah. I mean, the top speed it got up to was about 13 knots, which isn't that fast these days, but was back then.
Yeah. And how often would it have sailed to New York?
You'll see in the Dockyard Museum details of every single voyage. So it went round the world about 45 times.
Really?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yes.
Did Isambard Kingdom Brunel actually sail on the ship, do we know?
No, we don't think he did. You'll see in this museum, which is just about Brunel himself, not just this ship. Yeah. You'll see he unfortunately he passed away at the age of 53, so he didn't live. He
was quite young, wasn't he? I don't think he even saw the end of the suspension bridge.
No, which was a real shame because that's one of his biggest achievements.
It's fantastic, isn't it?
And everything he did, people didn't believe could be done.
Yeah.
So his nickname was the Reckless Engineer. And there was a pub in Bristol called the Reckless Engineer named after him.
That might be worth a pint in there.
Yes,
I should think so. It's built of iron, I believe, isn't it?
Yes, that's right.
Was this the first of its type?
Yeah,
built of iron.
60,000 rivets. If that's an interesting fact.
Someone was kept busy then.
Yes. Oh yes. Absolutely. Amazing. Someone counted them.
Yes. And would this have been a passenger ship, or would it have carried any cargo?
Yeah, both.
Yeah.
It's at full capacity. It was about 700 people, including the crew.
Right.
In first class, second class, and third class, which you can see on board the ship, all the different classes of accommodation.
Yeah. And I guess the rail connections to London would have been a part of the history of this.
Absolutely. You'll see that in the Brunel Museum, and you'll see because that's about all the railways he did, the bridges, the tunnels, hospitals,
all those bits.
Yeah, so that's very interesting in
Definitely a superstar of his day, wasn't he?
Absolutely, yeah.
Amazing. Well, Ian, you've been brilliant. Thank you very much for your help
Thank
with
you.
me today, and I'm going to go and have a closer look now at the ship. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Bye. So we're going to venture along now to see the sheer size of this massive ship. And I think in its day, because it was made of iron, I think everybody assumed it would sink, because iron obviously would have been heavier than the wooden boats that were being used at the time. But this most definitely is something that sails and went round the world several times, as we've discovered so far. We're going to have a little walk on board shortly. I think this is quite the most impressive thing. I'm interested with the sails, and clearly it would have been driven by steam as well, so it had the choice, I'm guessing. Did these sails actually get used? Probably a bit of both, I would imagine, but that's what it looks like from the outside. Now sadly you can't come and see these things for free. I had to pay £22 to walk into this particular dock where this was built. But having said all of that, you can use your ticket for the rest of the year, so you can come back again and again and again. I don't think I'll be doing that, but you know, it's definitely worth a visit. So let's go and have a look on board the boat and see what it's like on there, and I'll pretend to start singing Celine Dion songs, because my heart will go on. So I'll see you later in the show. So I ventured into what is the underside of the SS Great Britain. Something I wasn't expecting to see today. You can actually walk around the hull of the ship. I'm going to be quite technical now, because I'm going to take you to the stern of the boat. Yes, that makes me more intelligent than you thought. Yeah, this is the back end anyway. And I think this should be quite impressive, because here we can see the propeller of this enormous piece of iron. How they ever got this built, who knows, but how impressive is that? There's a sign here about Brunel's propeller. I'll read that for you, because actually I think that might be more knowledgeable than I am. So the SS Great Britain was the first ship to cross the Atlantic with a screw propeller. In 1840, Brunel saw an experimental vessel, the Archimedes, which used a screw propeller. This was a new way to drive a ship, and unlike paddles, a propeller stayed effective in rough seas. Brunel was impressed and experimented with the different propeller designs. He showed the Great Western Steamship Company that this new technology could be more efficient than a paddle, and persuaded them to let him redesign their ship to include a screw propeller. And wow, here it is. I mean, look at that. That's something else, isn't it? This is the original dry dock that this ship was actually built back in the 1800s, and it's really amazing and so fantastic that it's been preserved in the way that it is. I'm very lucky today, because I've come here in the middle of the week, and it's not quite as busy perhaps as it might normally be. We're going to go to the bows now. I did tell you I'm very knowledgeable about this, but it does also say that on the sign there, so maybe I'm cheating a little bit, but who cares. We'll go along here. So nice boat, as some people might call it, and please be careful. Some bits need a little bit of patching up here, I guess, but it's unlikely to ever go to sea again, so I don't think we need to worry too much about that. So, as well as the impressive ship that we see in front of us, the SS Great Britain, if you walk around the dry dock, you'll see lots of kind of like museum pieces here. This is a genuine horse from 1840. It's had an accident, you see. It kind of, the wind blew in the wrong direction and it froze in exactly the same place that it was at the time. But there it is. Also gives you a very good way to learn how to tie knots. And I'll get tied up in knots, I'm sure, about this as well. Some nice barrels here. There would have been a a few drops of rum or something in these back in the day. Oh, gunpowder. Oh, you don't want to drink that, I don't think. Okay, so whilst we avoid the school children, we're going to head on to the deck of the SS Great Britain now and see what we can see up there. It's a beautiful day here in Bristol, so let's get on board the actual ship, shall we? So before we can actually get onto the deck of the SS Great Britain, we go through this small kind of museum which is dedicated to the vessel, including some film action that's going on here as well. We'll have a little walk through this part of the exhibition. This looks like the steering wheel.
Around! Steer clear of those rocks. The lighthouse is there for a reason.
Aye aye, Jim lad. No, I think that's not quite the
Starboard bow! Sail!
It's good that they've got original recordings as well from the people who actually originally sailed this. I think that's well impressive. This went to San Francisco, around the Cape Horn. You can do your own research on this, by the way. You don't need me to tell you all these different things here. She did 32 voyages to Australia, carrying immigrants and people who had become too old to be suitable for use. Well, that would probably include me, wouldn't it? Went to war with Russia. Well, things don't change much, do they? In 1854, found itself a vessel to transport troops, horses and supplies to the war zone in the Crimea in the Black Sea. Well, there you go, exactly what I say. Some things don't change. I can hear the lovely sound of children here. I'm guessing these stairs go upwards, so we're going to get a passenger's boarding card now, which is quite nice. So we'll have one of those, because that's what I'm going to do. I'm a passenger and I'm going to board. I do hope this is the actual way. Ah, to the ship. Okay, that sounds promising. And I think we've finally made it on board the SS Great Britain. I always think it's a good idea when you come to places like this to speak to somebody like we did with Ian, the man who was at the door, the volunteer, because he'll know so much more about what's going on. But to be fair, there are loads of signs saying exactly what's going on here. I thought I'd introduce you to a friend of mine. This is Moo. Hello, Moo. Thank you. Moo's in talkative mood today, which is quite nice. This is fantastic, isn't it? So we're now on board the deck of the SS Great Britain. So this is where first class passengers would go. I wouldn't normally be allowed beyond this line, because clearly I wouldn't be first class, would I? And I don't want to draw any comparisons with the Titanic, because at least this one didn't sink. But you can imagine actually back in the day, it really would have been class led, and the poorer people would not have been held in the same kind of accommodation as some of the richer, posher people. And this went all the way to New York, but as we've seen from what Ian told us earlier, it went much beyond that, including Australia, so it's definitely been around the world a few times. But how impressive is that? I'm not really needing to say much, really. I think you just need to have a look at this. It's really, really impressive. So we've been brave enough now to enter the lower decks of the SS Great Britain, and I really have never been here before, so I can't actually tell you where I'm actually going, but we'll just wander around here. It might be a little bit dark, but I think we've entered the kitchen area. And this man looks like he's busy preparing something. You alright, buddy? How's it going? Good. And a few words that'll give us a good chance to walk around this kitchen area. Hopefully it's bright enough for you to see what we're actually looking at here. We go through the kitchen area into the parlour. This would be where they keep all the stock of food. God, you imagine this place when it was actually out at sea. There's another man who's doing some butchery by the looks of it. There's a pig's head if you fancy a little bit of pork. This young man here is just catching up with the local news. Someone over there looks like he's had better days. Mind you, seasickness must have been something which was part of the journey, I would think. It's a bit calmer here today. That bath looks a bit better than mine actually, so I'm not going to complain about it. We move along here. Oh, this must be a WC. I don't know if I really ought to be lifting this. No, maybe not. That looks like a toilet. Yeah, as does that. So we'll come along here. Coming into something a little bit nicer here. I wonder if this is where people would have actually... Oh! I've just banged my head against something. Mind your head, I think is the message here. So someone would have played honky tonk piano along here. Chaz and Dave were the first passengers on this ship. That would be nice. In here, this is where the medic is. This looks like the doctor there, treating somebody. It's been a little bit poorly. Gonna have a look in this door. That door's locked, so we won't have a look at that. Lots of mirrors. Hi. Hello. Morning. Very nice. So I think we're now in something like the heart of the vessel, and this looks very much like the engineering side, the engine room, I guess. This is the top bit of it. We're going to go downstairs shortly and see the bottom part of it. But what an impressive thing. Fred Dibner would love this. You'll have heard me mention him before. If you're not familiar with Fred Dibner, just look his name up. Famous man from Bolton who used to love steam engines and knocking down chimneys. So if you get a chance to look his name up, he will have been here, I feel absolutely certain. And look in here as well. Really quite impressive stuff here. Quite a bit of oil, I imagine, some of these engineering works would have taken. We saw you just now. Okay, so look, we've had a look on this particular deck. They've got lifts here. I'm pretty certain, I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but I reckon they're a fairly new development on this boat. I doubt in 1840 they'd have had lifts here. But you never know, they were very inventive. So, okay, let's see if we can find the steps to go down to the lower deck, or the deck below this one, at least, and see what we can find down here. I wonder if there are any ghosts here. I have a keen interest on ghosts. So let's have a look. Right, I found some steps. Let's wander our way down here. Oh, this looks a bit more like where the posh people would go. So let's go in there and hopefully they don't notice. So this is a place where people would come and have a chat. Now, as you know, on my Day Tripper Daz episodes, I do like to speak to people when I get here, because I think you find out more things about them. This gentleman looks like he's either finished his plate or he's ready to move on. What did you think of the food, sir? Yeah, okay, I'll talk to Madame here. Yeah, you seem to have a full plate, love. No? Not interested? Oh, what a shame, never mind. So, here we go. Now this is a bit more posh, isn't it? What's a place that says crew only? And all these doors, where do they go to? Let's just pick one of them randomly and see if we can find something in here. No, they're not letting us in. Okay. Well, maybe that's for the best. Who knows what's going on behind some of these doors? Really fantastic. The food looks like it's seen slightly better days, but we're not hungry yet. Oh, we're going to go and grab some food, I think, later on, if we can. So that's that deck there. So I don't know what else there is nowhere else to go down. So we'll make our way back up, and this time we'll go to the other side of the ship. I thought you were one of those statues then. Hello.
You would have got a shock if we'd have spelled them then.
I've been speaking to a few of them and I've had no answers so far.
Best people to speak to, aren't they?
Right.
Get out of it! Stop loitering! Your shindy last night would have beaten Bedlam.
Now that is the voice of somebody who was on this ship, I guess. What's he got to say for himself? This would have been the quarters, I guess, for the crew, the cabin crew. Is that what you call them? Fairly small, but I guess after a hard day's work at sea here, you'd have probably been quite glad of putting your head down for 5 minutes, I would imagine. Definitely. Have we got somebody down here? Hello, how are you? You look... What? Okay, fair enough. You get lots of things suddenly speaking to you.
Raffle to take on the sea. I will have a throw. I will have nothing to do with it, nor should you.
Ooh. Yeah, I think we've definitely come into the quarters of the crew here. So it's a bit dark, but you can imagine it would have been even darker back in those days. They wouldn't have had electric lights that we've got today. I'm going to touch a little bit of this iron. That there is actually a piece of iron that would have been touched by people back in 1840. There's a bit of history there for you. Okay, well, we're going to see if there's anything else to see on here and then move on. So we've made it back to the upper deck now of the SS Great Britain, and I think we've come to the end of this particular part of my day in Bristol today. I think what we're going to do now is head off and see that famous artist I mentioned to you earlier on in the show, and we'll see if we can find a little example of that. And then I think we might be looking for a bit of lunch, maybe a pint or two, like you do. So from the SS Great Britain, I'll see you somewhere else in Bristol. So I'm sure Bristol isn't unique in this. You'll find street art, graffiti, vandalism if you call it, wherever you go, and Bristol is no exception. Quite a lot of it here to be seen. But I've come here for one particular piece of street art which is world famous. And there's lots of examples of street art to be seen here, but the one I'm looking for is a little bit more special, and it was made by a famous artist locally called Banksy, whose pieces of art never sell. He doesn't reproduce them. He came out of the 1990s and very much part of the underground scene here in Bristol, but the paintings themselves, if someone's lucky enough to have one, do sell for thousands of pounds, many thousands of pounds. And we're going to see one in a moment, which is here in Bristol, and it's called The Girl with the Pearl. And here it is, in a fairly anonymous sort of backstreet part of the town, the city. But Banksy is world renowned, world famous, and even people will knock down walls in order to store these pictures to save them. So the fact that we've got this one here still is quite remarkable and nice to see. It is held behind some fairly rough looking gates here, but nonetheless, there it is. That's your famous Banksy, the girl with the pearl, and that's that. Right, now I'm off back into Bristol itself, and I'm looking for a man who we probably don't think of as being quite so special as Banksy. So we really are in the heart of the city now, and I wanted to take you to this particular building which has fond memories for me, to be fair. This building, when I was about 14 years old, was the first time I played in here as a cornet player in a brass band, and we had a brass band contest here, and I've done many since, and it was called the Colston Hall. And I never thought of it at the time. I never thought of what the name meant. I never thought that there was any significance to it. But it wasn't until many years later, in fact only till recent times really, that I discovered that Edward Colston was a local businessman and a very wealthy person who was revered a lot in the city because he made lots of donations to building things, schools for example, and lots of other things which the city, on the face of it, benefited from. But the history of Edward Colston, as we're about to find out now, was not such a good one. He dealt in slaves. He would ship slaves to Bristol, and he made his money off the back of that. But in many ways the people of Bristol kind of lived with this element of guilt, I think, that was felt by the local people for many years, and it boiled over. And if you'll recall, we went through a phase where Black Lives Matter became very prominent, and Edward Colston was seen very much as someone who was not really regarded as something to be proud of. So what I'm going to take you to now is a plinth. This plinth was originally, you can see it's very busy down here, part of the Bristol landscape for many years, and it celebrated the life of a man which a lot of locals were becoming very uncomfortable with. So as we work our way down to where this plinth is, you'll see it no longer exists with a statue on top of it, and that's because the local people tore it down in recent years. In fact, they threw it into the river. The statue itself still exists. It's in a museum here in Bristol. It's adorned with graffiti these days, lots of spray paint on it. But the people that took the statue down, I think they were taken to court and actually ultimately were released. They weren't actually held to account in that sense, because I think the feeling was so many people were unhappy with it. So let's cross the road now, and I'll take you to where the statue once was. And here we are, the heart of the Bristol bustling shopping centre. But what I wanted to show you was this. This is where the statue to Edward Colston once resided, unceremoniously torn down by local people who were not happy celebrating the history of a man who made his money out of the slave trade. Interestingly enough, if you read the plaque itself, it doesn't mention his name, but everybody knew what was on top, and so therefore the local people decided this is not something they were very proud of, and it was torn down. So Edward Colston has had his name removed from so many places. I showed you the Colston Hall just now. That's had its name changed. It's no longer called that. And this is a city that's come to terms with a part of its history that perhaps it isn't too proud of. But at least the plinth itself is still here, people now can maybe reflect on what was, even if we can't completely erase its history. So, if you're going to come to any city, in any town, in any places in the country, you're going to find shops which you'll find everywhere, the same shops, no matter where you go. But I'm reliably informed that if I want to find something a little bit alternative, I need to go to the Corn Exchange in Bristol. And where would you find the Corn Exchange? Well, my guess is you probably have to go looking for Corn Street. And we found it, and here it is. We're in Corn Street. Yeah! I don't want to buy any corn, but I'm going to go into this place called the Corn Exchange, which I'm told is the place to go to find something a little bit alternative from your standard high street stores. So let's have a look inside, shall we, and see if we can see something that's quite interesting. And the first thing that I see is a list of all the places that sell their goods in here, and it goes down to the number 62, which makes me sound like it's quite a lot, really. So let's have a wander inside and see what we can see.
You're a very lucky man. Is your missus?
There we go. Very lucky man indeed. So let's have a look at what we can find here. Olive wood. Olive wood will last a lifetime if it is maintained properly. So we've got some nice, what do they call that, where you mix those mortar and pesto, is that the word? And I might get something to eat in here actually, because we haven't eaten today, so that would be worthwhile. There's some fantastic different things to be seen in here. Some nice woolly things, bare skinned feet, some nice cards. We'll wander around here, get some jewellery. Be careful not to disturb people here. What would you find here? Carved women at only 1995. That's not bad. Very nice. Now, as anyone who knows me knows I've got a cat. Maybe I should get that one. That's £175. Now, I didn't pay that for my cat, so won't be getting that one today. These are those sort of these are lampshades, but they look like they're made out of crystals. Probably got healing properties, I expect. This one's got amber. Anyone who's been to Lithuania will know all about amber, by the way. But there's quite a good selection here going on. Very nice too. Some shells. Very good. Now, I might be mistaken, but this looks like the kind of art that was produced by British Railways or the railway companies back in the day when they were trying to promote locations. Remember I mentioned the Clifton Suspension Bridge, which I've not shown you because it's a little bit outside of town, but that's what it is, that there. That's your Clifton Suspension Bridge. That was the one designed by Isambard Kingdom Brunel, the one who made the big boat that we saw earlier on, but never saw the completion of it, sadly, which is a bit of a shame. A little bit of art. We can see some of these things. Bristol, England. Yeah, very good. Get lush. All right, my lover. There. Now, if you come from the West Country, like what I do, you'll know what that means. All right, my lover. There's some, if you want some socks with Bristol written on it, they got some here. Anyone want a hippopotamus? A wolf? They're not bad prices actually, to be fair, if they're hand carved. Not bad at all. Yeah, there we go. Puzzle blocks. I'm puzzled already. Excellent. Now, I'm told there's a spice shop here. That's the bit I want to find out about. See if we can find this spicy shop, because that would be really good. I only know this because a friend of mine told me that there's a spice shop that needs to be checked out. So let's see if we can go and find it. Oops, someone's got a sneeze there. He's been smelling too much of the spice, I suspect. There we go. Let's see if we can find it in here. Yeah, there's more clothing really. Well, I failed miserably then to find the spice shop. Ah, maybe this is it. Poke bowls. Pokey poke? Locky poke. Gluten-free vegetarian, which is just what I am. But I can't see the spice shop here. Maybe I'm missing something here. Okay, well, that's that. But actually, I've noticed that if we go a bit further on, there's another covered market here. And I think I'm going to have to get some to eat in a minute because there's too much food going on around here. So, oh, this looks good. So we'll get some of that in a minute. Let's have a look at the covered market.
Hang on, Lise.
Bakery?
Yeah, that's all right.
Allora, questo è un Malaysian street food.
Okay, and we've come across a bookshop. Oh, here's a place you don't see often now. A sweet shop. Look at that. How old-fashioned is that? But how good it is to see. Can't think what I would want in there. I like acid drops. They're quite nice. Lemon drops, something like that. Really nice. Right, we're going to go and get something to eat because we keep talking about food but not actually doing it. So let's go and do that now, and I'll see you later in the show. So I've entered a little road somewhere off wherever we were to start with. I just thought I'd show you a few little things which are quite nice. So there's a very nice church type building down the bottom of this street with a big clock on it. But actually what I really was interested in was this unicorn which is on this building, which says it's the Bank of England branch. Very impressive looking place. It is too. And right opposite that, and I'll have to do a little bit of research on this, but it looks like a very grand hotel called the Grand Hotel. In fact, here we go. There's one of these plaques that you've got to read from the Anglo-Polish Society. Polish campaigner for freedom, equality and abolition of slavery, which is quite appropriate for Bristol in many ways. It's the sort of thing I expect to see Michael Porter do, walking out of the door any minute now. So I ventured a little bit closer back down towards the harbour side now, and I've come across this very curious looking building. It's pink, that's for certain, but it's also upside down. I think it's meant to sort of represent something that's been turned over. I'm not entirely sure what it's all about really. It's definitely on its roof. Seems a bit odd. There's someone filming up the top there, and I'm filming the person who's filming. So that's kind of almost interesting. Right next door to it, of course, is a big wheel. So we found some watery type features, which are here. So pretty amazing. And also, there's a rather large globe type thing, which is here as well, which is right over there. And that's very nice too. So I've made it back down to the docks here at Bristol as we come towards the end of our little visit to Bristol in the southwest of England today. I hope you've enjoyed it. It's been a lovely day. The sun has been shining and we've seen some fantastic sights and places to visit, and I do think it's well worth a day trip a Daz out. if you ever get the chance to visit the city. So for me, for now, for the moment, it's goodbye, and thank you for joining me. Please subscribe and press the like button and all the usual stuff. That'd be great, and I'll see you next time when we do another day trip. Bye bye.